So everybody's heard that they're remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and that's pretty fucking cool. But here's my problem with it. Where the fuck is Metal Gear Solid 4? We don't even get a port to PS4, not even, or PC. Sure, there's people saying, oh, it's rumored that Konami is working on a port of every of the mainline titles to be played on all the current gen hardware. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but you'd think they would have got that done before remaking all of 3 and doing... I mean, who cares what their order is, right? I guess what people should be worried about is whether or not it captures the same atmosphere that Metal Gear Solid 3 had way back in the day. We've seen a lot of competent remakes and remasters over the years. There's definitely a handful of good ones. I still haven't played the Demon Souls one, but I know some people really liked it. Other people said it kind of botched the atmosphere, and I haven't really played it, so I can't say. But Yakuza Ishin was great, Yakuza Kiwami, Kiwami 2, those were all really good remakes. So I'm sure it'll be good. I mean, I don't think they would botch something as big as Metal Gear Solid. They already did that once before with Survive. So I definitely think the game's going to be good, but I don't think it'll be out anytime soon. All we got was that really cool CGI trailer thing with all the animals in the jungle and the crocs and the snakes and, of course, Naked Snake. Or Big Boss, as he's known after the events of Snake Eater, this very mission that the game's about. Now, I actually recently replayed Snake Eater, and it definitely still holds up. It kind of sucked that I couldn't take any clips of it because I was playing it on my Xbox. Turns out I should have just emulated it on my computer because it didn't have the Guy Savage Dream, it doesn't have any of the cool minigames. But it was part of that HD collection that came with Metal Gear Solid 2, and I really only got it to play the old 2D titles that are also included. But yeah, it doesn't let you take any clips for some reason. I'm not sure why Konami games are like that. Peace Walker was the same way. That's why I had to play it on PC to get footage. But I'm digressing. Anyway, the game still holds up marvelously well. I'm definitely sure there's going to be some changes. Like, I don't think they're going to have Evo wandering around in an all-the-way zip-down mechanic jumpsuit wearing a bikini. As much as I'd enjoy that, I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I've just noticed a certain trend in modern video games where female characters who were previously scantily clad are now not scantily clad in the remake. Shit, I haven't played the Legendary Collection of Mass Effect, but I hear they changed like the camera angle so it's not focused on Miranda's ass all the time. And isn't that why they mocapped her anyway? Like, they got an extremely hot actress and modeled her for the game to basically, like, it's all part of her character. I know that sounds like me defending Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5, which I will defend. But that's kind of the point of Miranda's character in the game. She's supposed to be like seductive. She's like a counterintelligence spy operative. You can't trust a word she's saying. She's there to seduce you and take you for everything you have, if what you have is military or tech intelligence. Again, I'm digressing. Plus, that game also has Jack, who's basically just wearing a couple belts as a shirt. Which is funny because I've never heard any complaints about Jack's outfit. Sure, there's a lot of people that don't like that type of character. I'm not one of them. I love edgy, rage, psycho characters with, like, powerful ass abilities. But if you ask me, she pulls it off. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Mass Effect. Let's get back to Metal Gear Solid. So you can expect that Evo will probably be covered up in some way, or maybe she won't. Maybe they'll keep it true to blue like the original. I also don't think that the Ape Escape or Tony Hawk's Pro Skater minigames will be in the remaster either. I mean, they weren't even in the HD collection. I would hope that the Guy Savage one is, but it probably won't be. And another thing I'm curious about is, who's the voice cast going to be? Are they just going to use the old audio file? That might make the game sound a little dated, but at the end of the day, I mean, are they really going to re-record all of those codec conversations and all of that exposition and dialogue that's in this game? Are they really going to do that? It's tough to say. I mean, this game has some long cutscenes, really long codec calls, and if you truly wanted to remaster and remake and thus replicate the original experience but brought to the new generation, I think you would have to. I think that you can't really half-ass it in that department. You need to have the codec calls. You need to have the saving feature. With Mei Ling talking to you about 60s movies, that's a part of the flavor and the atmosphere of the game. If that's not there, in a way, it will be kind of botched. I'm not going to say it's like a deal breaker, because obviously it's not. A game, first and foremost, I suppose, should be about its gameplay. So if the gameplay is good, the game will still be definitely, playable and not bad. But if the story and atmosphere is botched, then, I mean, it's not really a Metal Gear Solid game. It's kind of like a very well put together homage cash grab by the people who currently hold the Metal Gear license. I mean, look what happened when they tried to make a game on their own last time. I'm not saying Survive is horrible. I've only played probably like 10 minutes or not even of it. It just shouldn't be a Metal Gear Solid game. They just slapped Metal Gear Solid, the IP, on it, so in hopes that it would sell. And all that did was just piss people off more, which rightfully so. I mean, Metal Gear Solid as a franchise is so down bad. Every day there's a new post on the Reddit talking about how there's a rumored Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. And look at that, one day it finally came true. But I'm talking this was every day. You had people making their own menu screen for what a potential Metal Gear Solid collection game could look like that had all 5 on it, including Peace Walker. And all remastered too. Someone took a lot of time to make that image. And not only that, there's people like me that are so desperate for a new Metal Gear Solid game, or something that even kind of looks or feels like Metal Gear Solid, that they try shit like Left Alive. I can't really blame Yoji Shinkawa for that, but he did make some pretty badass art for that cover, and that convinced me, oh, this must be like a Metal Gear Solid style game. Even though I'm an adult now and I could have looked it up and done some research and actually, quickly found out that the game is horrible and that they only got Yoji Shinkawa to make it look like Metal Gear to pull in people, idiots like me, to buy it, a horrible game. So yeah, don't play Left Alive, it's horrible, don't trust the artwork, which looks really good. But yeah, if you're that, hard up to play a new Metal Gear Solid game, you'll pretty much eat up anything. So even if this remaster is horrible, I'm still gonna play it. But I really hope that it isn't bad, because then that means that none of the other games are going to get a quality remaster for quite a while. I just wonder what made Konami think, okay, now it's finally time. But still, this is good news. For a long time, I thought this franchise was dead in the water. They refused to comment on whether or not they were ever going to port Metal Gear Solid 4 to anything other than what it was natively on PS3. And my computer has a hell of a time trying to run RPCS3 and trying to play Metal Gear Solid 4, let me tell you. For some reason, Snake looks all skinny and lanky, and everybody's audio is not synced up. Cuts out sometimes. It's not a pleasant experience. I could get a better computer, or Konami could just port the game to PS4. It's definitely capable of it. And I understand the difficulties behind that, to some degree. I do know that it's not exactly an easy game to port or emulate because of how complicated it was built. I think someone told me a while back that the game even has to emulate a PS1 Metal Gear Solid 1 just for some sequences when they return to Shadow Moses. And but at the end of the day, that's a complicated mess of numbers that I don't fully understand. But since I still want to ramble on for a couple minutes, I never really understood why they didn't make an updated or, 3D version of the original 2D titles. They wouldn't even have to be long games. Metal Gear 1 could just be Solid Snake going through Outer Heaven and then killing Venom Snake. And Metal Gear 2 or MSX or whatever the fuck it's called would basically be the same thing, except you're infiltrating Zanzibar land and you have to kill Big Boss with a flamethrower or a lighter and some bug spray. Honestly, I can't really remember if that was... it's been a while since I played those games, and I played through them very fast. 1 is a bit hard to play. I'm not going to call it unplayable, but it's almost there. And 2, to me, is a lot of fun. It basically expanded on everything that was in Metal Gear 1, and basically made all the controls more smooth and easier to, just operate and pull off. So if you haven't played one of the 2D Metal Gears from way back in the day, I definitely recommend playing 2. You're not really missing out much by skipping the first one. You can just get a summary of it on the wiki or watch somebody's playthrough of it on YouTube, and you'll get the same amount of fulfillment out of it with less of the frustration. But definitely play 2 though, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, this is just one of my little rambly videos I wanted to talk about real quick, because I heard this news and I was out and about doing stuff yesterday and I almost didn't believe it. I looked on the Reddit and I saw that yet another remake and remastered version of Metal Gear Solid 3 was rumored to have been announced at something. And I see an update like that or a headline like that, and I'm like, okay, I've seen this a million times. Only this time it turned out to be true, to the surprise of absolutely everybody, I'd imagine. And personally, I'm not too worried about the gameplay side of things with this remake. Metal Gear Solid 3 still holds up insanely well, especially when compared to the gameplay of, say, Metal Gear Solid 2. Again, that's just my own personal preference, but yeah, I'm not too worried about how they remastered the gameplay. It's not hard to make a really good stealth game, so I don't see them really botching that aspect to it either. Again, my only worry is that it might be a little too hyper serious. I feel like there might not be enough of the campy goodness we know Metal Gear Solid, especially 3, to have. And I think a good way to tell whether or not they'll get that right is how they adapt or don't adapt Snake's save calls with Mei Ling. Shit, paramedic. That's what I get for playing 1 and 3 back to back. But anyway, those are awkward and goofy and just strange and not the normal thing you see in video games, especially nowadays. But it's shit like that I feel like gives the earlier Metal Gear Solid games a lot of character and heart. Sure, it's just Kojima inserting some of his legendary movie love into his game, but I find that pretty entertaining. Your mileage may vary on the movie references and how long everybody talks on the codec, but it's the campy dialogue and how everybody seems hyper aware that they're in a video game at times, and something about it just doesn't get old to me. I don't know, I love it. Plus, I think that the codec calls and shit like this is a good way to tell the difference between, say, Solid Snake and Big Boss. Of course, we see them at different points of their career in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3 respectively, but during the events of this game, Big Boss himself is kind of a goofball, and he's super awkward and weird, but it's very, I don't know, relatable in a way. I don't know, Big Boss is pretty cool in this game, and I really like that. My favorite will always be Solid Snake for obvious lore reasons, but if this game didn't exist, then it really, to me, Big Boss wouldn't be as tragic of a character or even likable, honestly. But I guess that was the purpose of this game, to give depth to the Big Boss character. And let me say, they fucking hit it out of the park. In my opinion, of course. This is one of my favorite franchises, so maybe I will be a bit biased. So if they keep that faithful to the original, I imagine they're going to keep everything else faithful as well. But if they change that, it's not going to be a deal breaker for me or anything like that. I'm not one of those fucking nut jobs that exist on YouTube that just exists to complain about every little thing. But it'll show me that there's going to be a lack of faithfulness to the source material. I'm not going to go into it expecting everything I know the game to have to still have it in. I'm not going to expect the green frogs, the little collectible things that you shoot. I'm not going to expect those if the game doesn't have its trademark goofiness to it, you know? Basically, that's my only worry, is that it just turns out to be too hyper serious, and that would be kind of lame. The thing I'm most excited for when it comes to this game, honestly, is probably just getting to explore a new revamped version of Groznygrad. And I know this is a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear Solid. It's probably my favorite of the Big Boss games. I mean, I like Peace Walker a lot, and it works as a great companion piece to this, in my opinion, but I do think that the story in this hits a lot harder. And there's just so many fun characters along the way. You've got Revolver Ocelot in this one, literally meowing at people. You've got the Cobras, who in my opinion maybe weren't as cool as the Foxhound unit from Metal Gear Solid 1. But one of these dudes is a literal ghost, and how they're going to handle him is going to be really interesting. Because throughout the original game, you'd often see this Cobra member who died, the Sorrow, who I believe is Ocelot's dad. I could be wrong though. But you see his ghost a whole bunch throughout the game, anytime the boss is around. And it culminates with this sort of Spirit River pseudo fight kind of thing, which is a sequence I've grown to love over time, because the first time I played it, I just hated it because I kept instant dying at the end. I hated it then, but I love it nowadays. Oh yeah, what do you guys think of Snake's new design in this one? It looks like a cross between the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Big Boss with the Ground Zero's Big Boss that we had in the prequel to Metal Gear Solid 5. Because as we all know, the main story of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, did not feature Big Boss as the main character. It instead featured his body double, the Punished Venom Snake. So it's nice to see they're keeping some continuity with basically it looking like a younger version of Ground Zero's depiction of the character. Although when I first saw the reveal of how he looked, I did think it kind of looked like his bandana was painted on his head. But hey, that's fine. This is just a CGI trailer. I'm not really complaining. But yeah, at the end of the day, all we can do is wait and see how this plays out. I think it could be good. Whether they get the atmosphere right or not is kind of up in the air, obviously. But this is something I'm definitely going to be interested in to learn more about as it develops. But again, that's just my personal opinion. As always, let me know what you guys think of the video. If you liked it, please like it. If you disliked it, please dislike it. And if you like hearing me ramble on about video games, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. I'm just a one-man operation here. We're working towards getting back to those more frequent uploads again, because I do have a bunch of stuff in the backlog that's pretty much done. A couple of the things I need to edit copyrighted shit out of, but that's not a big deal. And honestly, this is just boring shit to talk about. So let's get to our outro, shall we? But on a completely unrelated note, who would you guys prefer voiced Big Boss in this remake? Should it be David Hayter again, or should it be Kiefer Sutherland again? Or maybe it'll be neither of them. Honestly, who knows? I think it really doesn't matter that much as long as they get the boss's voice right. And by that I mean she still has to be Diane Simmons from Family Guy. That's the only way this works. But yeah, I think the best way to approach this is to be cautiously optimistic, which is kind of like how I felt about Andor before it came out, and it basically revitalized my love of Star Wars. So I definitely have high hopes for this remake. I don't think Kojima necessarily needs to be present for it to be good. Plus, he's working hard on Death Stranding too, which I think is going to be fucking dope. Anyway, I've talked long enough. I'm going to let you guys go. Have a good one. We'll see you next time with some fancy lore video or another. Have a good one. See ya.